Morning watch nerds. Seriously, I've lost count of how many San Martin watches I've owned over the last 5 years. Unless you've been living on Mars, you know San Martin are based in Hong Kong, and although many will consider them a factory brand, others may consider them a micro brand. Arguably though, I suppose they're a bit too big to be considered the latter. Initially they only produced homages, but as of late they've dabbled in their own designs, this being one of them. Okay, study it closely and you may find a resemblance to something else, but that can be said for the majority of watches. Anyway, Jody over at Just One More Watch said it's original, so it must be. The only other San Martin I own at present is the SN0129G, which is a watch I adore. Now what amazes me with San Martin is the level of finishing and specification they achieve for the money. Remove the name from the dial and you could quite easily believe you were handling a watch that cost thousands of pounds. And that really isn't an exaggeration. In actual fact, the case finishing technique they use is the same as Grand Seiko. However, because it's not made in Japan, it can't be described as Zaratsu. And welcome to my unpaid and unsponsored review of the San Martin SN0129G. Now, as nice as this may look in the video, I can assure you in real life it's absolutely stunning. There we are, and this is what the watch came in. It's the latest iteration of San Martin's packaging, and let me tell you, it's certainly the best. And inside is a 2-year warranty. So as usual, let's have a look at the dimensions. Well, the case is 39mm, whilst the bezel is actually 38mm. The lug width is 20mm. The depth is 13mm, which includes a double dome sapphire crystal with AR coating. And the lug to lug is 46.5mm. Now with all the links attached, it weighs about 142 grams. Now for what I consider as a dressy sports watch, the dimensions are pretty much spot on, and in my opinion, it wears to size. And this is my watch of the day. It's the Atticus Meteora with this beautiful silver linen dial. Keeping the watch ticking is the Seiko NH34, which is really a GMT version of the NH35. It's robust, reliable, and if regulated correctly can be reasonably accurate. It's all you really need, but if high specification movements are your thing, you better turn me off now. That said, I would like to see San Martin experiment more with other calibers. It ticks away at 21,600 beats per hour, hacks and hand winds, and it's got a power reserve of around about 42 hours. So let's see how this one looks on the time grapher, although I can tell you in real life, it's running at just plus 2 seconds a day. There we are, all looks good. The rate's plus 10 seconds a day, but with NH movements, in reality it's always actually slower than what it reads on the time grapher. The amplitude is 272, which is very good, and a good beat error as well. The 6mm crown is very well knurled. It's signed, screws down to aid the watch's 100 metres of claim water resistance, and the engagement is very nice. Now as you can see, it's partially protected by crown guards. Pull it out once and turn it backwards for the date adjustment, and the other way to adjust the GMT hand. Bearing in mind this is actually a cooler GMT. Of course, pull it out at second click for the time adjustment. The bracelet is nice, but perhaps I would have preferred an H-link, or even a Jubilee. Now this came with an oyster style bracelet with brushed outer links and polished inners, but I've since brushed the entire thing, which I actually think looks a lot better. You see, I'm no lover of polished inner links, purely from a practical point of view, but I suppose that's a personal thing. Now we've got solid female end links, but there aren't any quick release spring bars. Resizing is simple due to well engineered screw pins. Now it tapers down from 20mm to 16mm, then back up to 18mm for the clasp. Now this model has got the on the fly clasp, and it's excellent. It's fully milled and it's got the hex logo applied, and the micro adjustment gives you about an extra centimetre of play. Now it amazes me that San Martin can give you a clasp like this at such a great price, whereas you can buy a Swiss made watch costing 4 times as much, and attached to the bracelet will be a piece of junk. Now on the subject of price, You can pay between $250 and about $320 depending on where you buy this watch, but don't forget to add any duty depending on the country you reside. Now, I bought this good used one for just £170 from an eBay seller, so a big thanks to T-Mang for getting it to me so quickly. San Martin cases are always far better than they should be for the price, and this one's no different. Where it's brushed, the brushing is fantastic, and where it's polished, the polishing is amazing. Now, the watch has got a brush fixed GMT bezel, which then has got a polish layer, then brushed again. The tops of the lugs are vertically brushed, although the inner part of the twisted lug is polished. Now, this sort of detail is just fantastic. We then have got a finely polished chamfer that leads down to brushed sides, with another polished chamfer on the underside. The case back is brushed and it screws down. Unfortunately, it's left plain though, which is something I've moaned about before. Now, you aren't Rolex, San Martin, so at least engrave some basic information on the back, guys. Come on. The dial comes in several iterations, but I didn't particularly want a sand dune version. As you can see, this is silver grey with a brush finish, which I think looks great. Now, around the chapter ring is a minute track. Then we have some highly polished indices filled with lume. There is a frame date window at the 3 and an applied San Martin hex logo at the top. I've never been the greatest fan of the logo, but at the same time it doesn't really offend me either. Now, above the 6 o'clock it reads GMT in red to match the tip of the second hand. Then below that it reads automatic with the water resistance. Now, the hands are simple fence posts, and they're also filled with BGW9. The lume is excellent for a sports watch, but needless to say it can't quite keep up with a good diver. That said, it does last most of the night. Anyway, let's have a look at that lume. So what do I think of the San Martin SN0129G GMT? Well, I probably would have preferred the centre links to have been brushed, but I've done it myself now. It would also be nice to have something engraved on the case back, but that's probably nitpicking. Other than that, I believe this is one of their best watches. So if you're considering buying one, I suggest you just go and do it. Now, that brings me to the end of this review, so if you've enjoyed it, click on the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, leave your comments below, and enjoy the rest of your day.